Lochoyo sampo pagyo trashi pa tuche tempe trinle yarngoda pelge drolor zampe ze parche pande lame shabla solwade Omo a guru vajradara sumatimu nisha sane kar Uta varda nishri bara varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om Guru Vajra Munisha Sane Karma Uta Varda Nishri Bara Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Dara Sumati Munish Uta Varda Nishri Bara Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Dara Sumati Munisha Sane Karma Uta Varda Nishri Bara Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Shasane Karma Uta Varda Nishri Bara Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Dara Sumati Munisha Sane Karma Uta Varda Nishri Bara Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dagi Chetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo Oyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tseji Ningnes Dejen Korlo Visu Lekshu Ne Yila Sambe Dede Malupa Gemel Hunge Drubra Chinge Tsoni Sodan Dikdun Shape Tse Dunge Namke Yinsu Lekshu Lapchen Tsonye Yonso Tsopa Dan Chera Nyetun Chanwara Chingelo Chancho Parge Nyinsen Tukun Tu Nyu Peme Siudru Lekshune Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshi Shi Tungen De La Drubra Chingelo Dage Lona Chela Chokpa Dan Chemin Samjur Ngemba Shiwa Chedan Tumbe Dudun Malupa Bemel Hunge Drubra Chingelo Dorna Tingne Tsira Tamche Dan Teche Pardune Kavat Rese Kyamne Lama Keleme Tukje Chingi Dala Sikso So Gongya Drewe Nyamta Dachal Jetsun Lame Tuche Rab Gongne Kudan Sunge Nawa Drame Nyamsu Nyowe Kesan Topra Sho Kewa Kuntu Yanda Lama Dan Drame Cheki Pela Longchech Sadan Lamge Yunte Rabt Changi Kopa Nyur Tobu Shoya Pakyu Ke Kudan Dagi Olu Pakyu Ke Sung Pakyu Ke Tudan Dagi Yi Tenyerme Chikto Chingi Lo ma kyuke kudan dagi lo ma kyuke sundan dagi ma kyuke tugdan dagi tün yerme çıktı çingi Shakya. Munye Swo Shakyamuni Soha. Sashipuki Chushimeto Tamare Rabalingashi Nide Gempadi Sange Shintu Mikte Ulwarki Drokunam Dashingla Parasho Yidam Guru Ratna Mindrala Kam Niryatayami Sangye Chudan Tsoge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chudan Tsoge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chudan Tsoge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chinso Gibe Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupar Sho. Nel Buddha
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namo yo laye ke da luda nue jen ke rubunda na mi ke nam dan ruba kunge tanam chi tsampa tamche ke du da ke che ten. Buongiorno.
Good morning. Happy New Year. Why are you laughing? Today is the beginning of the year. According to the astrological calendar, today is Kalachakra's day. So the Tibetan astrology system, at least the Kartsi astrological part, the day begins with the day of Kalachakra in this month. According to the Tibetan calendar, there are at least 3 New Years. There's the New Year of the first month, of the villages, and of the king. Once upon a time, during the New Year, people had to work and serve the lords, so they couldn't celebrate. So they organized a New Year 1 month prior to it. So the village's New Year was 1 year before the actual New Year, and then there's a New Year beginning, which starts on the 3rd month, which is the Kalachakra month, according to Buddha's teaching of the Kalachakra Tantra, upon which the astrology and the tantric part are based. This shows us that we live in a reality which is formed of concepts, projections. There are conventional issues. So there is a concept of what a month is, what a year is, where do they start, and so on. And within this matter, we live reality through our own perception. This is quite obvious. The other day, I listened to an explanation of a doctor, a psychologist, a neuroscientist, who was explaining that everything is related to other things, and everything we perceive is a reflection of ourselves. Nothing exists independently of us. And she brought about an example. She was holding a cup, a metal cup. She was holding it and said, the fact that this cup is solid, is it an objective or a subjective fact? Usually we would say a metal cup is a solid. She said no, because solidity of the cup exists related to my body. When I touch it, depending of the softness or hardness of my body, if I had a hand that was made of a certain kind of steel, I would touch the cut and feel that no, it wasn't so solid, so hard. The fact that the cup is solid isn't intrinsic. It depends on the relationship with the other. And so is everything. Everything exists in a complex web of relations where everything is so because everything else is so. So it's like a game for children where there are different weights hanging on strings. So everything is in balance. If you change a little part, the rest will change accordingly. And one of the main mistakes, our weak points, is our inability to comprehend, to see, to perceive the relationship that connects everything. We tend to be self-referential. We see everything through ourselves. In our life, we are self-referential, in our relationship, in our work environment, in the society, in the religion, Buddhism, as country, race, species, planet. We really struggle to see the other person, and by the other person, I don't mean another being. I mean anything which is in a way that is not self-referential, which isn't related to the I and the my. And this way of seeing things in a self-referential way has another aspect which seems in opposition. When I see you, related to me, I can't see you independently from me. Is it clear? We see the other always compared, always related to ourselves. At the same time, we see that the other person exists in an autonomous way, independent way. At least if we could understand that whatever I see depends on me, so in the part where when this kind of thought would be useful, we can't even see that. Even if it's related to myself, whatever I see, we feel that still it is independent. These are cognitive mistakes in the way we relate to other things and people. And in this way, we detach the parts. We tend to see and relate to every part in a way that is kind of hermetic, compartmental. The body is there, the mind is somewhere else, the environment somewhere else. We try to see every aspect of life in a separate way. When instead, whereas when we observe with careful attention, we will notice that there is no aspect of our life which is separate from the rest. I recall some time ago a person who was about to visit another person in a terminal state, was feeling anxious to be able to sustain, to support the other person. There was this question rising, when will this person die? Answer is, we don't know. No one has the ability to predict that a person will die at this specific moment. No one really has this ability. Apparently, from an intuition, a medical point of view, it seemed that time was about to come. So this person sets off and goes to visit the dying one. So the dying person doesn't die, at least when he or she was expected to die. And the question was, so I shouldn't have gone so soon. So it wasn't true that this person was about to die. So now I ask myself, if every variation within the equation changes the result, and my interaction with you changes something in you, and I know that you care about me and vice versa, and you are in theory about to die, and I come to visit you and I come to you, that relationship will have an impact on you. Of course, yes. So often we see things happening around us as if they were detached from every other interaction, if they were autonomous. We forget that our thoughts, our words, our interactions at every stage, every level, they are interactions, so create transformation. Every time I interact with you and vice versa, you with myself, there is a change. Let's use this analogy in the equation, and the result will be different. So it is essential slowly to observe that things don't happen for one single cause, and don't happen in an autonomous way. If we stop and think about our lives, there are many situations, physical, emotional, mental states, economical and financial, material states. And when we see things, we tend to see them in a separate way, whereas every little part interacts with the others. Some days ago, a friend, a doctor, was telling me that in some universities, there are 2 universities in Europe who are specialized in a master in Italy and in Portugal called planetary health. Planetary health means that it is seen and recognized on an academical and scientific level that there is no separation between environment, body, and mind. Whatever happens in the environment has an effect in the health of the person, mental and physical health. Whatever happens in the person has a direct effect in the environment. Things are connected, they are not detached. Buddha Shakyamuni showed this in the Kalachakra Tantra, not only there. It's divided into 3 parts, represented if we look at the mandala of Kalachakra, between the red and the green is the central one. That's a Kalachakra mandala. There are 3 levels in the square part. Blue squares are repeated 3 times, 3 levels. It represents a palace, a 3 stories palace. It's nice to see that mandalas, in every mandala, they have representation that if we look at the mandala, we see from a bird's eye a map. But if we look at the doors, the entrances, they are seen from the front. So the map is a real map, but the doors are represented not from a bird's eye, but from the front. So this is a kind of tridimensional realization. And I noticed that in ancient Egypt, likewise, a place was represented. So the entrance was represented as we were seeing it from the front, and everything else was represented in a map of a form. This is just a curiosity. Anyway, in the Kalachakra mandala, there are 3 parts, called in Tibetan Chi Nan Sheng Tsung, which means the wheel of time, external, internal, and kind of translation, alternative. Shen means other, which is translated as alternative, and relates to external is everything which is external to our body. Environment, planets, everything which is around us. In the mandala, around, there are letters. These refer to the different lunar houses, planets, and so on. So it refers to the wider environment. Then, within, is the closer environment, the elements, nature, and so on. Then is the internal Kalachakra, which is our body. Everything within our own body, everything happening in our body. And then the other alternative Kalachakra, which we should deepen a bit more in the root of the word, even though this translation doesn't sound so fair. Anyway, this is a state of the mind. So translating in a more simplified way is environment, body, and mind. It is not possible to reach a state of harmony in one part without having it in the other part. All the three parts are connected, and there is a direct connection between the environment, among the environment, the physical state, and the mental state, as there is a direct relationship between the mental, the body, and the environment state. They're not separated from each other. What is positive is when we talk about the environment, is when in order for me to feel good, it doesn't depend completely on the environment. Otherwise, I would be tricked until the environment is perfectly healthy. The way I interact with the environment will have an influence on myself. When this influence comes to me, the way I counter-react will influence whatever happens within myself and in the environment. So today, I wanted to focus on the micro. Let's forget for a second the macro, the philosophical, the planetary, the universal part. Let's focus on the personal part, our own lives. In our own life, in our own interactions, we have a deep aspect of our thoughts, actions, predispositions. And in our minds, there are three levels. Subjectively, in our emotions, there are three levels. A superficial, which manifests through our senses, what I feel, what I hear, what I perceive, the manifested mind. And often we shouldn't trust it so much, because in our manifested, in our gross mind, one of the main mistakes we commit is that when we have a feeling, we need to find a reason. And we tend strongly, when we have a feeling, to point our finger and understand why we feel that. So instead of pointing the finger at a very complex equation, we just point it towards the first thing we come across, which are the most manifest, the most evident things, like our work, the place we live in, the people we interact with, everything which is surrounding us. I've seen often in the couple relationship where when one of the two says, whatever happens is my fault, always my fault. This is because in the relationship, if I feel sick and I look for the guilty one, the first person we'll find is the person next to me. If it doesn't happen in that situation, it expands to the work relationships or anything else. When we have a feeling, we really struggle and rarely manage to stop, breathe, reflect, and observe in a deeper way, trying to understand where this feeling comes from and is the result of a multiplicity of factors do a kind of inner scientific research. When we do research, there are more people or more times. We study the reactions in the different situations and the common points to understand the causes and have a clear comprehension of the phenomena. If more people do the same thing, achieve the same result, means that doing this specific thing leads to a specific result. So if I do a personal research, today I feel like that. How many times in the past I felt like that? Never. Okay, it's something at the present moment. Many times. Was this person all the times there? Was the same situation all the time there? No. So, something else is going on. Once talking to a friend, she was very, very unwell. She was feeling very sad and sorry. I knew the person and the other person she was disagreeing with, and she said, "No, my partner doesn't recognize me, doesn't acknowledge me, my qualities, doesn't acknowledge my efforts." Knowing the situation, I asked her, "Have you ever felt like this in other situations before?" And she said, "Yes. My husband never acknowledged me, my daughters and my children neither." So I asked her, "What do you see in common?" And she said, "No one ever acknowledged me." And I said, "What was the common factor?" It's like the joke of the finger. If I touch everywhere and hurts, it's because the sickness is pain in my finger. So, when we notice a specific inner state of unsatisfaction, loneliness, anger, feeling abandoned, we have enough to go on. When we feel this kind of feeling, which repeats in different situations in our life, it means that it is on a deeper level, always present, and surfaces on a more conscious way. And instead of looking down deep inside, we look outside. So the inner research is, I feel this very often. When did I feel it before? Where did it start from? In which situation does it manifest more? So that we can feel rather than understand, that we feel that we live in a complex reality. And our mind manifests on a gross level, has a deeper level, and has an even deeper level, which are our imprints. And here there is a problem, an issue. I was reading a book talking about something I reflected often before. Our mind has an ability to process, of data processing, has a certain capacity of data processing. Let's imagine that we have a tool to dig the soil. We manage to dig with a certain frequency. If I dig the surface, I'll never have enough strength and the time and resources to go deeper. The book explains that from a scientific point of view, there are many researchers which get to the same conclusion, showing that when we have so much information, we keep on digging on the surface, because our ability to process information remains the same, but stays on a superficial way, because we give priority to the senses, whatever comes through the senses. So on a practical level, having so much information doesn't matter whether useful or not useful. We more and more become unable to go deeper in things. We lose our creativity as it comes from new neurological connections. When I put together what I saw, what I listened to, what I experimented, then I create a new reality, and this is the creative process which requires an ability to process information. But when we are overwhelmed by information, there is no space for other. So the ability to stop, recognize a certain feeling, and not being stuck in oversimplifying things and focusing on one thing as the cause. Instead, trying to introspect and do the inner research to understand when this happened before. This requires lots of energy. But if our energy is entirely consumed by text messages, news, and this wave of constant information we receive and we are addicted to, we have no more ability and inner space to deepen things, external concepts nor inner concepts. So here again it is important to stop. This book says, for example, there are some scientific researches showing that this idea of multitasking, doing multiple things at the same time, is just a great illusion. We just lose energy. And one more, there are also researches which show that a person in the daily life is often interrupted, can't keep on doing one thing because it's constantly interrupted by calls, messages, and so on. When this happens, when it's not interrupted by anything, the person interrupts herself by herself, is unable to stay on something, and this leads to further problems. Just an example. It's shown that while a person is doing a certain action, writing or reading, any kind of working function, is interrupted by messages in the chat, by an email, doesn't even read email but sees the notification, compared to those who don't have this kind of notification, the IQ lowers by 10 points, which is the double compared to when a person has taken drugs. So from the intellectual point of view, it's worse to have popping up notifications, emails or other interactions than having smoked some sort of drugs. This doesn't mean I'm pro drugs, but what I want to say is that our lifestyle can really harm us. And this has a strong connection with the Dharma. How can I understand the connection which correlates everything? The connection which is in my mental states, between my body and my mind, between the environment and myself, when I can't even go deeper in anything else, when I don't give myself the time to go deeper into things, to let information rest, take a certain topic and go deeper inside it. When I don't allow myself to have new connections, give space to creativity, even in the Dharma, creativity is one of the fundamental things. It isn't painting beautiful things, not only that, it's understanding, creating new connections, adding things up, and generating new things which can be something beyond conceptual, something deeper, more profound, which can be hardly described in words. So we need to give ourselves time, which doesn't mean clock time, means inner space. We need to give ourselves processing resources to analyze, to perceive. If we constantly use this ability, it won't be used for something more important, and this is a serious matter nowadays. So we often go back to the same point. When we create a habit to stop, observe, and get out of the obvious, the appearance, when we notice that things are more complex than we think, this slowly becomes a habit. So let's try to allow ourselves to have this kind of space. This is essential. When we start creating it, it's very pleasant. Oh, finally, I don't have to run around. No more phone, text messages. Then we get into withdrawal. Because this is a habit, it's an addiction. We need to go beyond that withdrawal syndrome in order to be able to deepen things. It's the same when we try to meditate. We sit with the right intention, we try to keep the position. At the beginning is very pleasant, I'm so happy, and so on. When we start to relax, then thoughts come about. Imagine there are many objects in front of our eyes. Then we suddenly shut our eyes. We put the palms of our hands on our eyes. And everything doesn't get suddenly dark. We still see some lights. Someone told me I had mystical interpretations of this. It's just the eye nerve. We are so used to see that even when we shut our eyes, we have some sort of impulse. One of the main exercises very useful for the eyes and for the mind, especially for those staring at screens, PCs and so on, often during the day, ideally 10 minutes every 2 hours, place the elbows on the desk and the palms on your eyes, pushing just a little bit and staying in this position for 10-15 minutes until the little lights disappear. This is very beneficial for the sight, and for the eyes. So, even when we get rid of the distraction objects, shutting our eyes, we still keep seeing them because we're still in that dynamic, and we need to wait that this moment goes away. We need to overcome the withdrawal moment to be able to finally calm down. But that specific moment is very difficult. And often, sorry to say, we struggle to go beyond a withdrawal phase. Before it ends up, we're again on taking our so-called drugs. If we really want to have a more profound perception of things, a more balanced inner state, let's try to go deeper into things, get rid of this surface feeling. And the first step is to get rid of distraction objects. I'd like to close up with a specific topic related to everything we said. Not only my imprints are connected to my emotions, thoughts, manifested on a superficial level, connected to my body on a gross, subtle, and very subtle level, connected to the environment surrounding me on a gross, subtle, and very subtle level, because also the environment has 3 levels. And not only this is connected to myself, so everything happening in one person has an effect on everything else. Not only this, but also my own reality is connected to yours. Doesn't mean we are depending on each other, so if I'm sick, you're sick too. It means that we constantly interact with each other. We do influence each other. So if everything happens in a certain way, there is a very complex equation behind it. When we look around, there are many things which don't really work that well. When I see around, if I could leave space to my critical mind and point at things which should be better, is enough. I could spend years in this way just to list down, just for the day, everything I see. There's something which, of course, we could say it would be better if. However, why are things like that? Because they belong to a complex equation. And the causes and conditions have created so that they happen like that. And if I'm part of this equation, I shouldn't be here complaining about the result of the equation, a result that I don't like. I don't realize that I'm part of it at a certain level. And my interaction creates a new change in the final result of the equation. So whatever I find that I don't agree with, something I don't like, instead of feeling a victim, this shouldn't be like that, and this person shouldn't behave like that, and so on. The question should be, in a wiser way, in which way can I interact to help towards a change that I'd like to achieve? Instead of feeling the victim or the world as a victim, there are many things that we see which are very critical and heavy. Our society has a extremely wide violence. And the question is, what can I do here? Someone would say nothing, I would say something. Let's take another example. There's a relationship with another person. We get along quite well. The other person gets sick, is feeling sick for many reasons, external, inner, secret, and reacts with aggression towards myself. When this happens, we say, "How dare you?" We condemn the conduct of the other person as we feel that an aggressive action is something wrong. So I condemn your aggressive attitude towards myself, and because you are aggressive towards me, which you shouldn't be, this justifies that I become aggressive towards you. Then we think we are mentally healthy. This seems crazy to me. You do something which is wrong, and this justifies me to do the same. And this attitude happens often in the micro, but also in the macro. And we should be part of the solution. Try to live in a more consistent way with the world we would like to live in. This applies to the micro and the macro. If I want to have a healthy body, I need to do something today which leads to a healthy body. Same for a healthy mind. I need to use it in a healthy way with healthy thoughts so that it becomes more and more healthy. If I want to have a healthy relationship with another person, I will try to relate with him or her in a healthy way. I should be today what I want to become tomorrow. This is the way how things happen, evolve. Let's give ourselves the space to see that reality is complex. The reality of our own being, of every other being, and everything surrounding us. And within this, what really helped me personally is to see a situation and tell myself I don't understand anything. What I can understand is a tiny part of a huge, complex reality. And I won't burden myself with the weight of trying to understand it. I don't have the means, the tools to understand it deeply. Why is it like that? The answer is I don't know. I have some hypothesis. I'll connect the dots. I have some experience. I can put more factors together. But anyway, they're not enough compared to the complexity of that reality. So when I consciously accept that I don't have a clear vision of why things happen a certain way, I will accept them. I won't submit to it saying it's like that and that's it. I will accept, I will submit, and by not opposing to how things are, and I will have a positive attitude towards what things can become. I don't oppose to what is, to how you are, or I don't oppose to how I am. I wish I was different, and I will act towards what I want to achieve. As it happened, if I am in a situation where no matter how much energy I put, there are no conditions for things to change, okay, we change direction. This is also part of this process. But if we manage to apply this rule to our lives, where we do not oppose to whatever happens and is on a personal and on others, on a global, social level, and so on, which doesn't mean submitting to how things are. It means I don't oppose, but I do direct myself towards the direction I want to achieve in a conscious way. These change things completely, because we stop feeling the victim and begin to put energy towards light instead of complaining about darkness. If we take the life of each of us and compete about the more problems, which is something I notice very often, the problems competition. A person says, I don't feel good, and the other one says, you don't know about myself. I'm not comparing with you. We're not competing for who suffers the most. But if we did that, we would all compete excellently. And at the end, that's it. The point is, there are many things. Where do I put my energy? Where do I want to go? I will act towards light and to slowly build it up, keeping into consideration this complex reality between environment, body and mind, which are directly connected with each other. And we can't separate them, because the reality is that everything is interconnected. So we finish like this. So even the mantra of Kalachakra refers to the 5 aggregates and the 5 elements: body, mind, and environment, creating harmony among these 3 parts. So we do our dedications.
Lama kutse rapten chin nam kartin le chokchur ge padan losan tempe drume sasumgi drove munsel taktu ne gyur chi kewa kuntu yanda lama dang dralme chiki pela longche chin sadan lamge yente rabzone Dorje changi kopan yurtobasho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin yinsen taktu delek pe koncho sumki chingi lob koncho sumki ngodrubutsol koncho sumki trashisho all'alba o al tramonto di notte o durante il giorno, possano i 3 gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni, possano aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. Cescidele. Buona giornata.
Have a good day. Thank you. If you would like to come for a brief salutation, you're welcome.